We should be now live if you refresh my page.
Okay.
Hi guys, how's everybody doing today? For the replayers, because I shouldn't imagine Facebook's told anybody we're here yet. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay. I got Steve Wentworth on with me today, and we're just going to chat about something that's happening in the world. I don't know if you're aware of
it. Yeah, if people aren't aware of it, I don't know where they are at the moment.
I do talk to some people about it, and they're like, "Oh, let's stop talking about it. Let's stop." And in part, I get that.
Yeah.
I've stopped watching the news.
Yeah.
I don't read the newspapers. I don't look at the websites now anymore, and I've stopped doing the briefings in the evenings.
It can be a bit depressing in some ways, can't it?
Yeah.
It can. It's you know, I think it's all very well. Sorry, I'm just sharing the live video at the moment. So if I
I'll let you share it, and I'll say, yeah, okay. It's a lot to take on. It's a lot to worry about and things like that, and it's just overwhelming. But we are in isolation. We are in a house with people 24 hours a day when we wouldn't normally be. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Who are you living with at the moment? Are you by yourself or?
No, here with my partner and the dogs. And it's kind of, it's difficult because it's not a normal situation. And no matter how well prepared you are for it, it can be a bit tense. It really can. You're dealing with everyday life, but now everything's kind of amplified, and you're sharing a space with someone that you wouldn't normally share a space with 24/7. It's even things like noise from music and other things going on. It can be quite intrusive. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different issues aside from all of the stress of you know, money coming in. Everyone's got to make a living still. It's and then even trying to get to the shops. It's everything's just so different. But it depends on how you look at it, really, I think. And I think that we're all going through this period of adjustment. I don't know what it's like for viewers out there at the moment, but here in the UK, we're all in lockdown. And I know there's big chunks of the world that are in exactly the same situation as us. And it's a lot. We're all going through that period of adjustment, aren't we?
Yeah, it's a big adjustment. Even I'm perfectly happy to stay at home. You know, I'm like, oh, I've got no council meetings this week. I've got no things. I can stay at home. But then suddenly we're told to stay at home when you don't want to stay at home.
Yeah,
I think that mindset.
Yeah. I was absolutely fine with it. See, I decided I would self-isolate probably for a couple of weeks before we were told to. Working from home anyway, it's not essential, and I get most of my deliveries online anyway. So I just thought, right, okay, I'll stay out the way. It's less pressure on health services if the fewer people that get it. But as soon as it was an order, suddenly I think it feels really different to all of us. And I've spoken to family members and friends, and they're all going through the same thing. Suddenly it's official and you've got to stay home. And people don't like being told what to do. So I can kind of see the dilemma that the governments kind of go through, especially when we're used to being able to do what we want. There's that very fine balance between personal freedom and also being responsible and helping everybody else as well. So, and less pressure on health services. But yeah, it's tough. I think it's tough on all of us. But I feel lucky that I've actually got people and my dogs around me. And, you know, thankfully we've got things like Facebook Messenger and Skype and Zoom and everything else. So so we at least we can still see each other. In fact, I think, I don't know about you, but I've been speaking to more people by video phone and video call than I think I've ever done. So as someone who works from home, I'm seeing a lot more of people at the moment and kind of socializing more. So I've actually seen a benefit from it.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot more phone calls. A lot more people are phoning me,
Mm.
and I think that's partly my dry sore throat is talking all day.
Yeah.
One thing I don't like to agree with the government very often, and I disagreed with them at first.
Mm.
But they were saying about if we lock down too early, people will start going out and all that. And I was like, no, lock it down. We got to get on with this quickly.
Yeah.
And although I still stand by that, I can see what they mean now.
I can see what they mean, and I think, you know, for people in the US who are watching this, I think we went. How long is it in the UK that we went into lockdown? A
I think
week?
it's official now. What day are we today? We locked down last Monday.
Okay, so it's been a week of officially being
I don't
locked
even know
down.
what day it is
I
anymore.
don't either. I'm really losing track at the moment. Yeah, it's the government. And I know, you know, we both voiced concerns because we thought that we should have been locked down a lot sooner. Bearing in mind, it depends where you're getting your information from, and the information about the pandemic in China was already out there. And
Yeah.
I just thought, to be on the safe side, we need to lock down now, and that's been my kind of gripe really with the UK government. But then I do see from the point of view of,
Yeah.
you know, doing it too early, people might not respond or might not, you know, might not adhere to the rules, but they're still not anyway. There's still a good proportion of those people who don't quite understand and don't quite get it. And that's where clear messages need to be given by the government right from the start.
Yeah.
And the more clear information, if you get that information out and people are aware of it very early on, preparing people could have started back in January. And,
Yeah.
you know, in February, we could have said, okay, well, yeah, we understand the situation now. But so yes, I agree it takes time to get people to understand the situation, but really we could have done that a lot earlier. I know it is what it is, and we have to deal with it as it is
Yeah.
now. But yeah, it is a bit of a concern, and it concerns me that some businesses are still open and asking their employees to go in when, you know, really I don't think that's there's family members, people that I know, that are being asked to go in to work in warehouses, and yes, the country's got to keep running in some form, but I think it's about that kind of social responsibility, which I think that's been lacking so much
Yeah.
in the West for, I don't know, since the 80s, maybe the 70s, I don't know, but it's a gradual kind of me culture where everybody's only looking out for themselves and they don't care about themselves, but don't care about what happens to other people as long as they're okay. But one great thing about, if there is anything great that we can take from this, is maybe people are going to start shifting their attitudes a bit. Because if something happens to a colleague or something happens to someone who lives on the street, it could affect them. A virus doesn't have boundaries. It doesn't know
Yeah.
how wealthy you are or how privileged you are. You know, it's affected Prince Charles. It's affected the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
It's you know, it doesn't know any boundaries at all. And really, if we can kind of take that into our everyday lives, I think that's something that we could make a huge shift in people's awareness. And that's one thing and one lesson I really hope we can take from all of this.
Yeah.
I really do. I think this has got a, you could look at this in so many different ways and think about, and I'm sure you've thought about it all as well, but it's the timing of this. It's the timing of it. It's where we are as a species, as humanity as a whole. It's something needed to happen. It's like a global awakening where
Yeah.
people can suddenly think about other people, think about the damage that we do to the planet. Because while we're not going about our normal daily lives, the air's cleaner and nature is starting to find its way back into cities. I saw a post on Facebook about how some mountain goats in North Wales had decided to start roaming around Llandudno and exploring the streets because there's no people there. And in a little town down the road from here, the ducks are coming out the river and going for a wander through the town. And it's nice to see all of that. And there's no planes going over, well, very few planes going over here as well. So I think it gives us it's an overdue breather from the world and from the illusion of the rat race and the illusion of having to go out and conforming to social kind of expectations. And I think that's something that is really potentially very positive. And this could have been, you think to yourself, why am I here? What is the purpose of being here at this time? And maybe we're here to witness something like this. And that's the positive message that I would have from all of this. I don't know about yourself. What do you think?
No, I agree with most of that. We found out as well that 30% of people don't wash their hands when they go to the toilet.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
It's like, wow. I wanted to bring in, before I share some of the things, there's so much good about it as well. The world's in the world's biggest retreat at the moment. And it's like a Spanish siesta for 3 months.
Yeah.
If we look at it like that, instead of a week, it's 3 months.
Yeah.
You cannot see the comments, or can you?
Let me see. I probably can if
We got Anna here, Katja's here, Lisa's here, Suzanne Higlin. Hi, Suzanne. I haven't seen you for a while. Shelley's here. Cheryl says we in the US have been in lockdown for 3 weeks already. More states since early March. It's funny the different lockdowns, how strict they are. Some of them in Europe are really strict.
Yeah.
$25,000 in or 25,000 euros in one town in Spain, that if you breach it, and people are being fined it.
Good.
In this country as well.
Yeah.
Not that much, but
in this country, I think it's a £30 fine.
Is it?
Yeah. So it's not. And
they're saving that on fuel on a trip out at the moment, aren't they?
There is something about people's mentality, though. When you tell them they can't do something, people just want to do it. It's this.
It's my favorite subject is the levels of. I think we spoke about this at some point. I'm sure I have done to you, but you got the levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
And if you tell someone that's growing the self-worth, a teenager, you tell them exactly what to do. They're not going to do it. They're going to do the opposite.
Yeah.
So you have to give them a reason to do it. And unfortunately, whether we like this or not, just the way we grow up, giving them the reason of you're going to save someone else's life is not enough for them. It's not enough for a lot of people, apparently, in this country, by the looks of it.
Yeah.
There was one woman that was saying about, because for a while we were able to drive somewhere to do exercise in this country. And this one woman, she lives with a like a lane at the back of her with a gate. And on a normal day, she would see 2 or 3 people. And one day she counted last week, 200 people come in and touch the gate, open and close the gate. And a lot of people and I know a lot more people need to do exercise. They're at home. They would normally go to work. They would normally go to the gym. So there's going to be an increase in people exercising. I get that. But she was completely mind blown by the amount of people that just touched that gate.
Yeah.
That weren't cleaning their hands, weren't clean,
Yeah.
And it's not so much the coughing and breathing, it's the touching of surfaces.
Absolutely. And there's also that kind of, when people aren't used to going out in the countryside for a walk or something, people feel a bit more carefree. So they touch they're not thinking about, when you go to the shop, you might think, oh yeah, I'll use some hand sanitizer. But when I go for a walk in the countryside, you think, oh, well, I'm outdoors, I'm safe. And it lulls people into that false sense of security. I know when I'm walking my dogs, if I have to touch the gate, I've got my hand sanitizer with me. I'm using it all the time. I just won't take the risk. But
Yeah.
yeah,
See,
and
I'm gifted, see, because I can go all the way through town floating. I don't even have to touch the floor. My feet never even touch the floor. I don't have
brilliant.
to touch doors or anything. I just drive near them and someone
Yeah,
opens a door.
brilliant.
So
So
I
you
can
let them get it on
literally
their
go out and
hands.
come back without touching anything.
That's brilliant. That's
What a
really
gift
good.
that is.
Yeah. No,
I never take things
I
good.
am being really, people at first thought I was completely overreacting, lost the plot,
Me too.
because I was seeing all of this in China. And I don't know if we've been watching the same channel on YouTube, but there was a very interesting channel on YouTube. And they were, the guy that was presenting was warning about this late January.
Yeah.
And once you get access to that data and you can see the way it's progressing, and you see the lack of response around you, that's what was panicking me, is that nobody else seemed to be able to see what was about to happen. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
was saying it in January to my carers. I was like almost shaking people. This is really bad. And
yeah,
they're going, well, how come it's really bad? There's only, thousands die of the flu every year. I said, you just look at the numbers.
yeah,
Yeah, but the numbers are small. Yeah, but you got to look at the growth in numbers.
exponential
It's
growth, isn't
yeah,
it? It's something that people can't get their heads around. It's that
no.
sudden increase, and plus the fact it's not normal flu, because normal flu there's vaccines for. Normal flu doesn't happen all at once,
And
and
doctors know what to do with normal flu.
yeah, yeah,
They don't know whether, and please don't take this as any kind of medical advice, but they don't know overly whether steroids help it or make it worse or
mm,
grow it or
yeah,
things like that. They just don't know yet.
yeah,
And also with normal flu, they know how many people end up in hospital on a weekly basis. They
yeah,
know the peak times. They're used to it.
yeah,
Um, it the other thing is I read with normal flu, or I watched a video of it, is normal flu has a 1.3 infection rate
mm.
or a spreading rate, whatever it's
The
called.
R naught,
Sorry?
the R naught, isn't it? It's an R naught. How many people that one person spreads it to?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But this has a 3.
mm,
And the difference is the normal flu, if you spread it to one person will spread it to 1.3 people.
mm,
And after 30 days, that's 15 people.
yeah.
This, after 30 days, is 490 people.
Mm. It's a huge difference.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
490, and there's the difference. It's the
yeah,
growth.
yeah.
And talking about collectively rather than an individual basis, because I'm worried for me individually, but
Of
that's
course, yeah,
me, myself.
yeah,
But collectively, there will be people that go back to normal. There will be people that this won't really make a difference of and all. But in general, it'll be a small shift in the right direction.
mm,
It won't be miraculous. If anybody's thinking we're going to go back to some kind of utopian, carbon neutral kind of wonderful era, no, we're not.
no,
Governments will go back to putting economics first before humans and all that,
mm,
if they left that in place.
yeah,
Um, but there will be that small shift. And
mm,
even the governments that are really anti-socialism, and I'm not totally a socialist, but I see the more merit in that than
yeah,
um, in the alternative. But there will be a shift between businesses can no longer say, well, the private business gets all the help and we don't,
mm,
because now they're all public businesses nearly.
yeah, yeah,
We've all claimed benefits now. Whether you're Richard Branson claiming benefits for his business,
yeah,
he's done the same as another business now.
mm,
Because up until now, governments weren't allowed to bail out businesses
yeah.
because it creates an
Unfair
knock-on effect.
competition, isn't it?
So it's totally changed all that. And the other thing is, people look at China and go, well, how come China was able to turn it around?
Mm,
Well, they're a communist country.
yeah,
And the difference between the Chinese people and the Western world people is they haven't really got much freedoms anyway.
yeah,
So when you tell the Chinese people to sit 5 feet apart from each other, they do it.
yeah,
when we tell us to sit 5 feet apart from each other, we get rulers out, we get things out, we start thinking about it, we analyze it, we complain about everybody, and before you know it, we're sat next to each other because we're fed up talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
think you're absolutely right. It's different societies have different ways of dealing with it. But I think, I know that there's as far as socialism is concerned, I know that to some people it's a bit of a nasty word, and I don't, and I can see all of the benefits as far as capitalism have given us.
Yeah.
But I think capitalism is absolutely fine as long as there's a kind of social responsibility built into it. I like the way that Amazon are helping at the moment and using their delivery network, which is something that the government doesn't have. And I like the way that some of the big corporations are trying their best to help. And I know that Amazon in the UK are working with the government for the testing kits to distribute them and to get them out to people. So there are some real benefits there, but when you see it go into corporate greed or for example, I mean, one of the incredible things that I'm really grateful for in this country is our health service, the National Health Service. This, to me, this just shows why health is a human right. There shouldn't be corporations and money making people shouldn't be making money from people's health, and having a centralized health service that the government it can control and maintain and get that kind of, not, I've seen some horrific reports out of the US where different health providers are bidding for PPE, face masks, and the equipment that they need, and ventilators. And because they're not one giant organization, they don't have the buying power that our health service does. So it means that they're paying way over the odds for really limited supplies. So there's this balance, which I think that I'm hoping that we can get from this moving forwards. I totally agree with you. It's not going to be some huge revolution afterwards, but I really hope that we can look at healthcare. We can look at the people who are vital providers with this, the health workers, the doctors, the nurses, the delivery drivers, the people that we need to keep our countries going. And I hope we can really look at those valuable members of society and reward them for what they do, because people have been taken for granted for so long, people who are being paid the minimum wage, and we are relying on these people now to keep things together and to keep food on our tables, to keep our relatives and our loved ones healthy. And we need to recognize that. And I think that's something that, there's this whole celebrity and this celebrity worship that we see, in my opinion, far too much of it on the internet and TV. People worshipping whatever leader it is of their country, people worshipping the Kardashians or whatever. And it's about time we reversed that and started looking at childcare providers and our health workers and the delivery people, because they are vitally important. And I hope that shifts. I hope our perspective can shift back onto the people who matter and really kind of redress this balance.
I just worked out a way how to put the comments on the screen.
Oh, well done. That's great. I can see them
so
now.
We can both see them.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking we're getting so many good comments here. And Lisa says, where do I look for the comment now? I think the humanitarian viewpoints are being considered more health over wealth. It's the survival mode right now. Yeah, you made a really good point, actually. The private sector has enough of the NHS anyway. I wouldn't expect the public sector to make the beds that you sleep in, the sheets, the bandages, the medicines, the hospitals, the uniforms, all of the equipment from the ambulances right up are all provided by the private sector.
Yeah.
So that's a massive chunk. The actual services should be government run.
Yeah.
without any question. And then it doesn't, and then the services can even be on times like this, you flip a switch and the military become services as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know, my care, and this is nothing against the care agency that provide my care. They're great. I've been with them 20 years. But my opinion is I should not have a private agency providing my care when it's funded by the NHS,
Yeah.
because that means the profit that they're making, and they may argue that they can run a better service and all that. Well, the service can be run better if there wasn't any profit in providing the services,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Mm.
And I'm not knocking the private firms, because if I had a private firm, I would do the same.
Yeah. But that's the whole nature of capitalism.
Yeah.
And that's fine in the right setting. But when it comes to healthcare, I think it's very easy when a government starts privatizing healthcare, because then you've got someone to blame when it goes wrong. If the government are in charge of the NHS or health service, it only comes to them. The buck stops with them. It doesn't. You can't blame some particular hospital and shut it down for malpractice. Um, so yeah, I think it is about responsibility as well, and being able to hold people to account. And it's very difficult to do that when you've got hundreds of different companies or insurance companies. But yeah, I see the comment you've put there from Cheryl about ventilators.
Yeah. I was going to say, because I want to share a couple of stories that I've heard locally of what's happened. If in the comments, if you can put any stories that you've heard of how people have changed what they're doing for the better. Well, not for the better, but like perhaps a company is now doing something else. But we've got a local cider farm, and I believe it's a cider farm. They're now making the ethanol or the alcohol thing for the local hospital,
Yeah,
because not so much alcohol has been sold. What else is happening? There's a local guy at Richard Lander. One of the teachers have gone in and he's building face masks for the local. I think he built 30 of them or something.
mm,
The Royal Mint have changed their production of money to face masks, and they've just delivered 2,500 or 25,000 or something.
yeah,
And they prototyped it in 2 days and they're making it. And I think it's wonderful the way they're saying finger up to the patents on these masks and things like that.
yeah,
So sue me. I'm going to make them anyway.
yeah. I think
Um,
that's a really good point. It just shows you that, when it comes down to it, we can do things.
yeah. And
And
this is why Trump won't do what Nancy Pelosi said. He will not put it on a wartime manufacturing, because the minute you do that, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it wipes out a lot of the patents. It means that they can say to factories, you're capable of building this, build it.
yeah, yeah,
But until he declares that, the manufacturers can go, well, I'm choosing to or not. Well, we might.
yeah. In a
Um,
situation like this, though, I mean, I do feel really lucky that we live in the country that we do at the moment.
yeah,
For all that I don't like about the present government that we've got, I'm really grateful that there's the support that we've got. It was a friend of mine who mentioned that in America, I think they get a one-time check of $1,200, and that's supposed to see them through. I don't know how regularly they get that, but I am really grateful that in this country we are, we've got the support, and we've got the government this time, as opposed to the last financial crisis. This time they're really looking at the everyday people to make sure that we've got enough to keep going. And there's
yeah,
obviously, for food, that's essential, and for stopping any kind of civil unrest. When their needs are taken care of, they're more likely to comply, they're more likely to stay at home. But when I hear about the world's richest country not bailing out hundreds of billions of dollars to private industry, but then people are at home and they've got to feed their family with $1,200 for goodness knows how long. I think that's
I know.
really concerning. I think we need to be, I just, you know, the US is such a big part of everything. The world looks to the US for leadership. And I think it's important that they do look after their everyday citizens. And you know.
But the 1% need the 99% more than they realize.
Yes. Yeah.
Because without the 99%, they can't have their 1%.
No, no, there is
it
no.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You know, I want to leave that up, what Diane said about, you know, the medical mask. And there is bad stories in this country. Michael Gove said, and I don't like to make things too political, but you cannot help it in this climate. This government has done a lot of good. And I'm partly glad it was the Conservatives got in, because it would have, not that it would have been any different the other way, but at least it's the Conservatives now spending the money.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, they've almost proved that we were not skint.
Yeah.
We never were. It's a myth.
That's it. There's quantitative
government cannot be skint.
Where it goes. Yeah.
Because governments are not a business and they cannot be run as a business. And the other thing it's proved in the past 3 years, and this, is that there's not an Illuminati above all the governments. Because when you see Trump, Boris, and many other leaders like a cat in headlights, what do we do next? It just proves to show that there isn't a group above them pulling all the strings.
Yeah.
The buck does stop with them. And in this country, we got a lot more accountability than the States. And I remember watching an interview with Obama's team when they lost. On the night that Trump got elected, one of the guys was sat on a seat, slumped on his little BlackBerry. And I don't know if it was a cameraman or the person interviewing him looked up and said to him, "You're looking really doom and gloom." He said, "Here's the problem. Everybody thinks that the president, there's a layer above the president. There's not. The president can basically say anything and do anything he likes, and the country has to follow."
Yeah.
And this is proving it, because, you know, they're using everything in the House to try to get him to do something or not to do something, and it's not working because he can just say, forget it. And this $2 trillion bailout, that was really aimed at all private businesses. And this is why the Democrats couldn't allow it to go ahead, because it would not have gone down to the everyday people that needed it. They were using this as a way of propping up the economy with the private businesses.
Yeah. I think it's
and his ratings have gone through the roof, by the way, for his TV show.
Yeah.
Did you hear his tweet on that?
Yeah. I did. It's a funny old world we live in, but I just think
My Daily Bulletins is beating The Bachelor final. Wow.
As if ratings are the most important thing right now. It's madness, isn't it? But I think this has proven to me, as far as the UK is concerned, that if there's a problem, say for example there's homeless people, the government said everyone needs to be home by the end of the week. We need to get people off the streets. We need to make sure that they found out the universal credit, which in this country, in the UK, is what benefits people get paid. They've said £94 a week. They've suddenly realised it's not enough to live on.
Isn't that funny? All of these people that said, all of these people with their big LED screens on the thing are rolling in money. Now they're having to live on it. They're going, oh, wait a minute. I can't even feed my family on this.
Yeah. So I think there's this whole kind of, even realizing things like childcare. Childcare is an essential service that people just think, oh, I'll leave my kids with them. Why does it cost so much? Why they do nothing all day? People are realizing now they've got their own kids at home, or they're trying to teach their kids from home, how difficult it is. It's this, I think, will probably be known as the great leveler, where it kind of brings us all back to understanding what other people are doing for us, and really kind of, I mean, one of the things I was looking at, there was a post, sorry, I was just getting it up on screen so I can see it here. Things COVID-19 has proven. And the first one, the job you were told that couldn't be done remotely can be done remotely. So there's a lot of flexibility there as far as working is concerned that existing workers didn't realise. Two, many disabled workers could have been working from home, but corporations just didn't want them to. So, people can work from home. There is that flexibility. Number three, the internet is a utility, not a luxury. Everybody should have access to the internet. It's, in this day and age, it has become an essential service. Number four was universal healthcare is necessary. You can't have people making money from a pandemic. You can't have people not going for a test because they know they're going to have to spend however many dollars it is on a test, or worrying that when they're in hospital, suddenly they're going to come out with a bill for $40,000 and, they're going to have to go bankrupt, and then the rest of their family come down with it. It's, it's these sort of things. Now, number five as well was homelessness can be solved when it can affect the rich. So exactly, when it starts to affect other people, they'll do something about it. As I said before,
I got an email today from a part of the housing, because I'm vice chairman of planning. I've signed up to some housing emails and things like that to keep an eye of that. And I got an email today that said about this £50,000 being put aside for any organisations that are helping the homeless during this time. That I don't know how to say it without swearing. Is where was that money before? Because they certainly have not got that money now.
Yeah.
So they haven't got that money now, but they have that money now.
Yeah. It's there all along. And this is the thing.
It always
this
was.
is the great illusion of it all. And something that very few people seem to have got. When people say, oh, but how are we going to pay for it? Where does the money come from? Well, the money is there, and the money, they create money. It's what quantitative easing is, where they put it back into sections of the community to boost it up. They could be doing that. It's not something new. And
money itself is the racket. It's deliberately controlled, so there's not too much, but there's just enough. It's deliberately based that way.
But I think the thing is, though, is that mentality, and there's a politician, Ian Duncan Smith, in this country, and he believes that. I know he's not not my kind of person, really, but anyway, he believes that. He thinks that if you don't pay people enough, if you pay people too much with the benefits, what they're doing, they won't go into work. But it doesn't work like that.
No,
when
it doesn't work.
People are frightened of the benefit system. They don't want to move off of benefits because they're worried about losing that security net. When people, for example, a universal basic income, that gives people that security net and allows them to be braver, allows them to step out.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's where their mentality is wrong, and where they're so disconnected from the public and they don't get it. It's when people are stuck on benefits, they want to move off of benefits, but they need a security net, and it works in completely the opposite way. The point that I think that this makes from, what we're going through now is that we're only as strong as our most vulnerable person as a society. And that's what COVID-19 shows us. And if we can apply that to everyday life, then it really has got the potential to change people. I think as far as, looking after people and being socially responsible, I think I'm really hoping, I know maybe it's deluding myself, I don't know, but I really would like to think that there's a shift in every person's awareness as a result of this.
There is a shift. There will be a shift, but like every shift, it's never the plan. It's only ever the shoot. the
Mm.
seed.
Yeah.
So there's a massive potential for a shift. And in general, the whole thing will move in the right direction,
Mm.
but it'll be subtle.
Yeah.
It won't be, it's huge right now because we have no choice. And we all believe it's going to be huge. We all believe we're going to be reading these books over the next 3 months. Yet we haven't picked up a book yet because we're only a week in and we've got another 2.5 months.
Yeah.
We all believe we're going to be meditating and we're going to become amazing at controlling our emotions. And, in 3 months' time, I am going to be the best possible version of myself. I'm just going to leave it till the last week to start. And I put my hand up here as well because I have so many plans for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting here going, well, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But there will be a subtle shift in the coming years of how we vote in elections,
Yeah.
how elections are campaigned, and how we see private and public businesses. Never before, never again will a politician be able to say the NHS workers or health workers are unskilled.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
They will be destroyed if they ever look up and say that, because everybody they've called unskilled in the past 6 months are the people we now need. We
Yeah.
need the people in the
And
supermarkets,
they're the people that
the
are risking their
drivers.
lives. They're out and about. They're delivering things through our letterboxes. They're
Yeah.
food is moving around, thankfully, and they're the ones looking after our loved ones and our family
Yeah.
who are sick at the moment, and they're putting
The care
themselves.
workers, these
Yeah.
are the people on minimum wage
Yeah.
that are normally just brushed aside as unskilled,
Yeah.
well, they're the people we're relying on for everything now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really do hope that there is this kind of, if someone dares to call someone unskilled or basically irrelevant, not important, if anyone dares to call them that in the future, I just hope they're crucified for it, because I think
Yeah.
it's absolutely disgusting to talk about anyone like that, but based on what they earn, because that's basically all it is. It's based on what they earn, not their value. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that hopefully will change. I know what you mean about people using this time wisely, though. We don't know how long it's going to go on for. It might be 3 months. I think it's going to be a lot longer. And I think social distancing is probably going to go on for at least a year, maybe more. I think maybe closer to 18 months, 2 years. But I think that it's certainly, as far as I'm concerned, it's made me far more grateful of connections with people that I have and the people that I love, my
Yeah.
family. And I miss them. I miss being able to see them. I miss being able to give them a hug. And that's something which is, I will always remember that, because the longer, it's my dad's 70th birthday on Monday. And not being able to go around and see him. Yeah, thankfully we've got WhatsApp, we can video call and that kind of thing. There's a lot of people that can't, but it doesn't take the place of that physical interaction with someone. And I think that's by far the most difficult thing. There's also a family member, she lost someone this last weekend. And when you've got someone who you love who is grieving, and you can't go around to see them, give them a hug and tell them you love them and listen to them in that way, I think that's something which really struck me about what a lot of people potentially going to be going through with this. When it's an infectious disease and there's people who are you're unable to see them, and then people start losing the ones that they love and you can't give them that physical hug. That's one thing. It's hugs for me that I will never, ever take for granted again. I'm quite a huggy person anyway, so I have to keep myself in.
Well, I never was. I was never a hugger. And
No.
I've become a hugger probably in the last 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
When I've realized my my interdependence on people and everything, the
Yeah.
planet, the universe. And I'm a hugger now. I will hug strangers.
Yeah.
And yeah, I miss that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's that real connection. And I went up the other night because I dropped something up to my parents. They live quarter of a mile up the road,
Mm.
and I had to stay out on the pavement while they come out, and I put it on the floor,
Yeah.
kind of threw it on the floor. It was in a box. It was okay.
Yeah.
Put it on the floor, and then they come out and said hello, but they stayed like, and normally I would think nothing of it. I would go up to my parents, I would go in there, I wouldn't give them a hug or anything like that.
Yeah.
Boy, did I wanted to give them a hug,
I know.
you know?
I've got to do the same later on. My mum and my stepdad live down the road, and my mum's 70 this year, and they've got pre-existing health conditions, but it means that I can't see them, and I haven't been able to see them for weeks now.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be coming around to do the veg patch in the back garden here, but obviously they can't do that. So I've got to go and do some shopping for them today and put it on their doorstep. And the hardest bit for me is going to be seeing them. I mean, even though I'll see them every day on my phone
Yeah.
via Facebook Messenger, actually seeing them face to face, I think that's going to be really difficult. I'm looking forward to seeing them, but I'm not looking forward to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, my daughter lives down the road, and I hear from her more on the phone than I normally do. We normally speak nearly every day anyway,
Mm.
but it's several times a day, and she's a dental nurse, so she's only going in one day at the moment.
Yeah.
And she's just going in to man the telephones because they're doing no treatments whatsoever. And I haven't seen her since, well, probably 3 weeks now.
Mm.
And she normally comes over at least once a week for a meal, or we go out and meet on a Friday. But I don't want to, partly I don't want to go down and see her because I'm going to so want to give her a hug.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's the
Um,
difficult part, isn't it?
you know, and
And
she's just down the road.
take that risk. It would be so easy to just say, come here, I'm going to give you a hug. But
And I've thought about it.
yeah,
I really have.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I've thought
and
about
the animal instinct for single people or people in a relationship that aren't able to see each other.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that's it.
that base chakra is going to get really live and kicking at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I think
Um,
that's something that I think that everyone's got a responsibility as far as that's concerned as well. I think uh it's too easy to just, oh, it doesn't matter, and
it's just the
especially
once.
when people's sort of sex drive and everything kicks in and they're thinking just purely from the base chakra, and it's that
Yeah.
they're driven
Which
by
is a
that.
massive, massive drive.
Yeah,
It,
yeah, definitely. And I think that there has to be that kind of common sense and that kind of, putting other people first. It's, even, the I suppose the heart chakra would be for giving people a hug. And
yeah.
not being ruled by your heart. It's like when I see my mum, I know she'd run a mile if I tried to hug her at the moment with with the virus and everything. But yeah, it's hard to get out of that kind of mindset, really, of what the world was like and our new reality. Annette's message, yeah, she's had nightmares over this virus.
Yeah. And Lisa says, yes, it's really scary. I done a podcast. My last week's podcast was I'm Frightened. And I got a lot of feedback from it because they come back and said, me too, I'm frightened too.
Yeah.
And I seen so much from the spiritual people in emails and everything like that. No need to be frightened. Let's get rid of the fear. Let's make the most of this time and all that. Just pay me $997 and I'll tell you how to.
Yeah.
And I was getting really, really fed up with it because I'm like, no, I'm frightened.
Yeah.
You,
And
you know,
I think that that's a fear is about survival. We can't deny that
yeah,
instinct as well. If you're not scared of this, then you're probably going to be one of the people who gets infected by it. Fear is there to protect you
yeah,
from getting infected or ill or dying. And so there is the balance of it. As long as you're doing what is all you can do, as long as it's your own little world, if you're stuck indoors and as long as you're looking after your own well-being, I think that's all you can do. You can't control what's going on outside and around you. So focus on yourself. And this comes back to what you said about making sure that you're, if you've said to yourself, you're going to read that book, or even if you're going to watch that film, or you want to learn a new language, do it now, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be, right, I'm going to throw myself into it and that's it, but just a little bit and you'll feel better. I've noticed a lot of the conspiracy theorists are going completely nuts at the moment. And I think it's because people have got too much time on their hands. Their minds are going into overdrive and trying to piece all these different things together. And so I think we've all got to look at what we look at on social media and take it with a pinch of salt, because everybody is dealing with this fear in their own way. Some people will try and get their information from official sources, which is good. Other people will try to make sense of it by piecing bits of the puzzle together and maybe coming up with something that sounds very convincing, but actually is completely not true. And that can drive a lot of fear. So we've got a responsibility to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, and the things that we say to other people are grounded in fact, because fear at this time is perfectly normal as far as keeping yourself healthy is concerned. But fear, when it starts to get into paranoia, when it starts to become a conspiracy theory, that isn't healthy, and that's not something that we've all got to be aware of that. And I think a mutual friend of ours, she pointed something out earlier, and I think it's about drawing attention to these things as well. It's about, fear is healthy, but just make sure that you're kind of talking about things responsibly at the moment, because
it's what you're doing with that fear. It can paralyze you. I'm physically paralyzed, but fear can paralyze me way more than being physically paralyzed. And one thing I'd also like to point out to all the wonderfully motivated great workers out there, which is, now that we have a lot of time on our hands at home, can we now all see how difficult it is to stay motivated when we have a lot of time? So when we often knock people for staying at home, not really doing much, well, when you have very little to do, it's really hard to stay motivated. If you want something done, ask someone that's too busy to do it. They're more likely to get it done. And that's really apparent at the moment. There was someone else I thought about. Oh, the conspiracy theories. It's just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's true. And this is a huge growing up lesson. And as teenagers, we cling on to anything that makes sense to us. Teenage thinking. And most adults are clearly in that bracket, really. If it makes sense to their already opinion, it must be true. I'll give you an example. These big fans you see everywhere, these great big white fans in the middle of fields. Have you ever noticed that whenever they're spinning, it's windy? Well, I had a theory. I didn't have a theory. I was going to make up a conspiracy theory. And I was going to say in a nice blog one day, I said, look, it's because the jet stream is slowing down and because of climate change and it's warming up, they're trying to speed the wind up to counteract it. So they're putting these fans in everywhere. And if you notice, they're always in the same direction. And they're actually trying to create turbulence to cool the earth down. And I thought, if I make that up, now then the cause and effect, which lots of people find difficult. And I did as well. And I still do sometimes. Just because something happens doesn't mean what you thought about it is the cause of it. So just because it's always windy and they seem to be spinning when it's windy, to a child, that would make sense because they've seen a fan in a bedroom.
Yeah.
But it might be the other way around.
Mm.
And with this, the government would almost, people think the government cause a problem to fix it to win.
Yeah.
They don't. Very often a government cannot spend money on fixing a problem until there's a problem. So they don't create the problem, they almost allow the problem to create itself.
Yeah.
A perfect example, they could have prevented 2008 crash by regulating the banks in 2007,
Yeah.
2006. But they couldn't do that because if the American government and our government said, we're going to regulate the banks and we're going to stop 30% of mortgages.
Yeah.
And everybody would go, no, you're out of power. You've got to go.
Yeah.
So although they knew the problem was arising, they couldn't fix it until something breaks.
Yeah.
So a government is sitting there knowing it's going to break. Bill Gates with his pandemic, he said epidemic, but I don't think he banked on a pandemic. When he done that speech in 2015 on TED, and he was saying about 3 trillion spent on arms, which I think that will go to right down now.
Yeah.
You know, you got all of these countries that were almost going to have a nuclear war a few months ago.
Yeah.
They're all doing the same thing to save their own people.
Yeah.
And they're helping each other.
Yeah. I know, and that's another thing which, you know, I'm sure there's going to be questions asked about, you know, the virus and where it's come from, how it happened, etc., afterwards. But one thing that you don't see is, you know, that China are sending over their medics and people to help in our country, in the NHS. And they're providing PPE. They're trying to get as much help over to us as possible. A lot of people are quite cynical about that and think, oh, that, you know, they're doing it for whatever reasons. But actually, there might be some kindness in this, and we have to kind of just accept it as that.
Well, Russia sending money and medical things to Italy.
Yeah.
And also, I did see on a chat yesterday that, well, there must be a cure because Prince Charles had not died.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, 97% of people that get it don't.
Yeah.
In actual fact, it's probably higher than that because we're not testing everybody, because loads of people are getting it and not knowing.
Exactly.
So, but we have to be careful not to go, well, I knew it was a conspiracy theory because he was in the danger bracket. He must have had the best care. He must have had, not necessarily.
No, but I mean, and even if he
didn't have the best care, I would complain because he is our future king.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's I think it is how you look at these things and the information that you take. You know, we all end up with the same information. It's just how we put it all together and how we string it into something that makes sense to us.
Exactly.
And we have to be careful that we're not just doing things to the accepting something based on the fact that it confirms our existing worldview. And that's what a lot of people do. Because something doesn't fit nicely with how they see the world, they will use the same information but come up with something completely different because actually they don't want to deal with the fact that they could have been wrong in the first place. And I think we all have to look at that. I mean, as far as leaders around the world are concerned and governments around the world are concerned, we can judge them now. We can see how well they're doing. You know, did they respond soon enough? If they didn't, what have they done to make up for that? Are they helping the poorest people? Are they helping big business instead? Are they helping corporations? You can really see what the priority is. And I think that's something that we can all take for this. So from this, when it comes to who we want leading us, do we want people who are going to look after the big corporations, or do we want something a bit kinder? Do we want to look out for everybody in society? I think we've got to really shift the way that we are judging the people who work for us, because at the end of the day, they work for us.
They do.
They serve us and they make sure that our countries work. And we have to look at it like that. I think we can really start to see whether someone's any good, or a government's any good now. This is a great opportunity. I see it as kind of the illusion of everything at the moment for this brief time that we've got away from the world and we've got away from the normal way of doing things. If we allow it to, and this isn't, about looking at conspiracy theories or allowing ourselves to become afraid of what's going on, it's about revealing what people's real motives are behind what they do. Whether they care, whether they don't, and I think we've really got to look at that. I think it's a good opportunity to really look at our core beliefs and reflect on what we think and what we believe, and if we can adjust what we believe because of the new facts that we've got and the new reality that we live in. Because there's going to be the pre-pandemic world and the post-pandemic world. Even if that shift is only small, it's still a different world. And the world now is completely different to how it was a few months ago. And the world in 6 months, a year's time, it's going to be completely different. So we now, as human beings, have got to adjust to that. We've got to adjust our values. We've got to adjust our what we thought was right for the old pre-pandemic world might not be right for this new post-pandemic or during ongoing pandemic world. So it's a good opportunity for us to now start reevaluating some of our core beliefs and core values and applying them to this new world and saying to ourselves, okay, we have got to respond and we've got to change the way that we are to make sure that as a species, as a humanity, can do so much better. It can be a kinder, better world, but this is our opportunity to do it, really.
Yeah. I like what you say about it does expose, it's holding the mirror up. One thing we got to be careful of is not just holding the mirror up to others. We have to be accountable for ourselves in this. This will show up our current core values, because I don't believe someone that does something wrong are fundamentally bad people. They're just doing something wrong. Their action at the time is wrong based on circumstances or something. Even if there's a pattern of it, it's still circumstances, experiences. But we haven't suddenly discovered that humans can be assholes. We were already there. Suddenly we see a video of a person arguing over toilet paper and going, oh my God, what are humans like? No, we've always been like it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's exposed. And this is what this does. But this also exposes the kindness. It also exposes the thing. But it's so easy to look at someone and go, do you know what? They're uncaring. They're this, they're that. No, everyone's frightened. That person picking up the toilet paper, okay, he's not frightened of what I'm frightened of, but he's picking up the toilet paper because he's frightened. Perhaps he lives with someone that has bad stomach or something. Who knows what they're frightened of, but they're frightened of something.
Yeah.
And this is what drives all humans, is fear.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It depends on the action. And you give one person fear and they will turn it to kindness, and they'll make face masks and they'll help their neighbors and they'll do everything.
Yeah.
It's really, really important that we don't judge others at this time.
Yeah.
So if we're going to judge anybody, judge ourselves.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do from our core values?
And you're right. It's exposing. When you look at those videos of people arguing over toilet paper, it isn't necessarily exposing something that's wrong with them. It's exposing their fear. When a toilet roll becomes that valuable that you are willing to physically hurt or to be physically hurt by someone, what does that say about the level of fear? That to me says that there's a lot of people that are terrified of not having enough loo roll, which
Yeah.
might sound funny, but actually it's that whole kind of focus of where their fear is at the moment. We've seen people in supermarkets fighting over trolleys of food, and now we're seeing the local council bin rubbish collectors showing this mountains of food rotting where people
Yeah.
have bought it, panicked, and now it's out of date. It just is, but it's a reflection of fear rather than greed, I think.
Yeah. As Stella says, the domino effect.
Yeah.
When you point a finger at someone, you have three pointed back at you. I love that. I heard that a few years ago, and I love that. Thank you for the reminder.
Diane's good with that. She's very good with.
They are doing the limiting here too. Yeah, they're limiting everything here. 80 items. I'm just wondering how I can eat 80 items this week.
I think last time I did an online shop, it was 3 items of each. You can only have.
I think it is much the same here.
Yeah, I think we had. I did an Asda shop the other day, and it's quite annoying when you can only get 3 oat milks, and you're not meant to go to the. You're meant to go out as little as possible. But 3 oat milks will probably last about 3 days. So yeah, and you can't get a slot at the moment for home deliveries. It's very difficult. But that one thing that I would like to just say to people as well is, at the moment, everybody is trying to get their food from the big supermarkets and online delivery people. But remember, you've got your local businesses. A lot of local businesses, they're still open for home deliveries. We've got farm shops, we've got local retailers, a lot of businesses, cafes, restaurants. They've got fresh produce and they can put parcels together. A lot of people and a lot of small businesses are delivering to your home. So instead of panicking and worrying that you can't get a food delivery slot from one of the big supermarkets, try your local businesses. Go on to Google, have a look through and phone them, because local businesses need your support more than ever right now. And it could make a massive difference to your local town, village, city, whatever. So I think we need to start looking at local businesses a lot more. And especially for things like fresh produce. It's fair enough, you want to get long life stuff from supermarkets, but if you need fresh food, go to a farm shop or give them a call and see if they can deliver, because I'm hoping that this sense of community will go on way beyond this. We've got the potential to have the best of all worlds at the moment. We've got technology, which is just incredible. We can keep in touch via video call. We've got the internet. But we've also got, if we can integrate that with the values that we used to have, the community values, where people look out for each other again, where people are growing vegetables in the back garden, and they're sharing it with the neighbors, where people will walk down to the local bakery instead of going to the supermarket, and get their fresh bread from their local baker instead. If people, it's all these little things that we can do, which can bring that sense of community back to our daily lives again. And if we can do that, like I said, we have the best of all worlds. The technology, we don't need to use our cars half as much as we think we do. If we can work from home, we don't have, people say, oh, well, I'll be missing all the people in the office. Well, actually, there's the local bakery, there's the local shop, there's all these other people that you can interact with as well. It's about shifting these habits that don't make sense, really don't make sense at all. We need to adapt to it. And I'm really hoping that if we can take, yes, there might not be a utopia, and if we're expecting that, we're going to be sorely disappointed. But those small shifts, those small changes could really bring a lot more value to people's lives, and it could be a really good thing.
Well, humans couldn't create a utopia, because by nature of the humans, we always want better. You know, if you went back to a caveman now and said, at some point you will be able to have bread a couple of times a day, and not only that, we can bring you jam and we can give you some clothes to keep you warm at night, he'd be like, man, that's utopia.
Or you'd think, are you crazy? Why would you need that?
Yeah, on the right. Well, the other thing I was thinking is I'm hearing people that have never meditated,
Mm,
that have never really gone out for a walk and went, wow, look at that butterfly.
mm,
Look at that leaf and the lines on the leaf. Suddenly they're telling me about their walks and their things that they've never really gone out and took notice on a walk.
mm.
And you've got these thousands of people now that are actually doing a mindful walk without even realizing they've been mindfully spiritual.
Yeah, yeah,
You
exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
and that's gonna have a shift.
Mm, yeah.
Y-
I think this is, going back to even what you were saying about people not doing, not reading the book that they'd meant to read and putting it off and putting it off. I think it is about, uh, it's about looking back on this time that we've got now, and instead of saying, wasn't that a horrific time, wasn't it awful, to be able to look back and say that was actually probably one of the most special times in my life.
Mm.
I changed as a person. I changed my values. I became an improved version of myself, a person I like more.
Yeah.
That would be a huge achievement. And as much as we miss the people we love and we want to give people a hug, I think we're going to appreciate them that much more when we come out of this. We still might have social distancing in place and not be able to go around people's homes for a while and hug people, but eventually it's going to make a huge difference. People are going to be it's going to be, I mean, one last thing that I do want to mention is the namaste greeting that people are doing as well, which I think is really nice.
Yeah.
And I think that's something which, when any greeting can be a warm, loving, respectful greeting, but I think that Prince Charles, when he's kind of brought that into the mainstream awareness and consciousness.
Yeah.
See, I'm not so keen on the elbow bump or the
No,
foot
I'm not
bump.
so keen on it.
I don't like that. I think it's a
That's
bit
like
bit naff, really.
but yeah,
Yeah, I think that's just a real sign of respect, and a sincere greeting, and it's the fact, a handshake. People shake hands; they don't really think about it. But when you actually have to put your hands together, and however you want to do it, it takes a bit of effort and a bit of time to do that.
yeah.
It takes consideration and thought, and because of that, I think that you can still have that kind of intimate greeting with someone. But I really
And
do.
the namaste, it's respecting the soul of the other person.
Yeah.
It's respecting them. It's not I'm saying hello to you. It's
Mm.
you're honoring them.
Yeah, you're seeing them as that person in front of you, and there's a real deep connection with it. So although we can't have that, I've started doing that when just before, when we were kind of self-isolating, when my mum, she'd come into the garden and she was still doing a little bit in the back garden at the time on the veg patch. We'd still do the namaste greeting, and I really liked it. It takes a bit of getting used to, but I think it's that could be really nice. It could be.
Yeah, I like that. We ought to do a campaign. We need to stop the elbow or the ankle kicking or something like that.
Yeah,
That's just going to end badly with teenagers, isn't it?
I think we've had enough of that happy slapping thing that they were all doing a few years ago. I think elbow bumps
Tangoing.
and foot kicks are going to be. I've got Alexa going off in the background here.
Oh, mine will probably go off in a minute.
Because I've said the magic word.
I know. I can't say Google or Alexa here.
Oh, have you got both there?
Yeah. I got one on my phone and one on.
Oh yeah, I've got one on my phone and the unplugged one here as well. So I've got one here.
I just want to look through some of the comments. There's so many comments here, and I think I'm going to have to read a lot of them afterwards. But darkness will eventually bring light. Yin yang, yeah. Well, it's funny with darkness. is you only have darkness when there is nothing there. It's you need to have something to reflect off.
Mm,
You know, we are all the reflection of the light. Everything that exists is a reflection of the light. So
yeah,
even it existing, I know some people said, and you touched upon it right at the beginning, is this here to teach us something? It may not be the cause to do it, but it'll certainly have the effect. I
yeah.
don't think the universe was okay. It's about time they had a virus. I just don't think that at all. But I do think it's here. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
You know I think that's my whole philosophy. And if someone could have come to me 2 months after I was lying in bed after my accident and said, "Okay, you broke your neck," and I go, "Yeah, I'm paralyzed. I'm like not going to be able to do this," and they go, "Yeah, but you're still paralyzed. What are you going to do with it?" And I
Mm,
felt like punching them, but it would have really resonated because
yeah.
if once it's here, you've
Don't
got
you?
a choice to do something with it
Yeah.
or complain about it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And this is, I don't want to look back on this really surreal experience that we're all going through and just say, oh, that was awful. It was a terrible, terrible time. I want to look back and be able to say, it gave me opportunities to do things that I didn't have before that. I want to be able to look back and remember this time as something that was a gift. And I know that sounds strange when there's
Yeah,
people becoming ill and dying, but it's how we deal with it right now for
yeah.
ourselves as well.
I'm just thinking, I wonder how many people like that were working 3 months ago. If you said to them, "I tell you what, next year you'll have 3 months off. We'll just give everybody 3 months off," and they'd all go, "Yes, but you're not allowed to leave home. Yes, let's do it." They would all be like, "Can't wait. When is it
Yeah,
going to start?"
yeah. Now they all want to get out the house.
Yeah, what, you're going to give me 3 months off? What? And the government are going to pay me 80% of the wages? Yeah, and you just stay at home and do nothing. And not only that, you'll save the bloody world while you're at it.
Yeah,
You'll be
yeah.
saving lives. You'll stay at home. You can watch Netflix. You can have your food delivered, and you can have a wonderful life. And you can go out and walk if you want to.
Yeah, I
But
think people would think you're mad. I
people would
think they
think you're
would, but
mad, but
they
people
would
would
they
go,
would love the idea of it. But
"Let's do it."
yeah, I think it's little things. Like at the moment, it's not too bad because here in the UK, the weather it's been sunny, but it's cold still. It's not, it's been a bit cold
Yeah,
for spring. But I think by the time we start getting to summer and it starts to heat up, and especially, I live not too far from the sea, but far enough that I'd have to drive there, so we wouldn't be allowed to do it really.
no.
I could go on a long walk and get to the sea if I wanted to, but it's things like that which I think are going to be difficult for people. I think it's really going to be, it's okay being at home and watching Netflix and Amazon and staying indoors at the moment, but once people want to get outside, I think that's going to be a challenge. And
Yeah.
hopefully people will still be complying with it because um, people need to be scared. I've
And
seen
our
far.
gardens as well.
Yeah.
We're going to have most amazing gardens.
Well, if we're lucky enough to have gardens, I've got a huge garden, so I'm lucky that I've
Yeah.
got that. But I
But
know that there's friends of mine who are stuck in flats in an
we
apartment.
cannot just go and dig up our plants and go to the garden center and buy new ones. We
No,
have to nurse what's there. So
that's
we may even
really
have to
good.
nurse a wonderful wild garden.
Do you know that is
How beautiful is that?
that as an analogy for what is going on now is perfect. I couldn't have summed it up better than that. Nurture what you've already got. You can't just go out and kind
Yeah.
of bring something new in. It's if you treat your life as a garden at the moment, you can't go replacing the plants with something completely new. You've got to nurture it, and it's like our minds,
Yeah.
our souls, our being. That's what we've got to do. I think you got that absolutely right there.
It's a good place to leave then. I thank you. Sorry we haven't got to all the comments. We've had loads of so many comments, and I gotta say thank you to Lisa, Cheryl, Annette, Katja, um, Diane. There's I don't think I can go back through the pages to say them all, but Estella, so many of you have been commenting, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. Shelley, and thank you to you, Steve. Let's
Thank you,
do this
Steve.
again in a couple of weeks.
Definitely. Yeah. I've got plenty of time. I'm at home.
Yeah.
And you know, for the people that are watching on my page as well, that's something that I haven't been doing enough of, and I will be, especially at the moment, for everyone who's feeling isolated. I think it's important that we are all keeping in touch with Facebook Lives and keeping that communication open. But yeah, I will definitely look forward to another
What book
Facebook
are you
Live.
reading, and what would you recommend everybody go to Amazon now and
Okay. I have been reading, right. Okay. When I say reading, okay, I tend to listen to audiobooks, which are my favorite. Let me look, because you've caught me off guard a bit at the moment. It used to be different when I was reading physical books, because I'd always remember the cover. Now I listen to books, and obviously you don't see that.
I forget the name of what I'm listening to.
Yeah, I think the other thing with audiobooks is it depends very much on whether you can stand the narrator's voice, which is always quite difficult. I've listened to some incredible books recently. One that I found practically very useful was Living from a Place of Surrender, by Michael Singer. And that book
Could somebody type that in?
Yes.
Living from a Place of Surrender by
Michael Singer.
Michael Singer.
And there was a book that was before that. There's been some incredible books, which I am fascinated with, the whole kind of, with consciousness, with even the experiences that we have, life after death, the experience of meditation, and how for those of us who, you know, when I've had some incredible meditative experiences where I have been to and experienced things which are more real than what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
And that it really fascinates me. And there's an author called Robert Monroe, and there was several books which I think it's a trilogy. And again, he started writing these books back in about 1930, and it's been over the course of decades, his experiences. And for anybody who's got questions about consciousness, about life after death, about what happens, about a lot of it resonated with me in a way that books haven't in the past. So Robert Monroe, there's Journeys Out of the...
Robert Monroe's, what's the title?
It's Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe. There's Far Journeys, which is by Robert Monroe. And then the third book is Ultimate Journey by Robert Monroe. And really good books, really good books.
Yeah, I never heard of him. I might check him out.
Yeah. What have you been reading at the moment?
Well, on Audible, I've been reading The Science of Self-Discipline, listening to. Audible just done a 2-for-1, and I went and bought like 10 of them. So I got so many Audible books, and I listened to them in the morning. From Ruby Wax's No Brainer, right through to David and Goliath by Mike and Plebwell. But the book I'm reading at the moment is Inner Engineering by Sadhguru.
Okay.
It's one of his first books, I think.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting because he shares the story of when he went up the hill and he sat there in meditation and lost himself to everything else. And he explained the experience I had at the bottom of the swimming pool.
Yeah.
And I've heard lots of people explain it, but when I read his and what it did for his life, I was like, wow, I've read someone else's account that was like mine.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Okay, he sat there for 9 hours and thought it was 10 minutes. Mine must have been less than 1 minute because I didn't die at the bottom of the pool.
Yeah.
But it felt like a lot, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So the time was irrelevant, but the fact that you become just awareness and you become everything else around. I was the pool. I was the ones at the pool.
Yeah.
I wasn't me. There was no fear. I was just everything. I was the running track next to the pool.
Yeah.
And it's so bizarre to even say it.
Yeah. Well, it is if you see, I get it. I do get it. And I think that that's where, for me, meditation and any kind of spiritual practice, and I'm not talking about a religious practice, I'm talking about a spiritual experience where you will actually delve in and explore your, and actually have something happen to you. Once you start experiencing those kind of things, or you have a major incident in your life, it kind of unlocks this key where you can, I've had a meditation of oneness as well, where I was just floating in nothingness and came to everything. And to experience that feeling of oneness with everything and feeling that you have access to that greater consciousness of collective consciousness or God or whatever, the universe or whatever you want to call it, that real deep connection, it goes beyond to read a book or to listen to a book or to whatever, where someone has the grammar, the ability to put that into words. I envy them, because my vocabulary doesn't stretch that far. I can't put it into words what I've experienced. So I would be very interested in, and Sadhguru, was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
okay. I'll have a look.
He's very popular at the moment, and I love his gentleness with just don't get attached to anything.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to completely chop the conversation off here, because I reckon we should pick up the conversation exactly here in 2 weeks' time.
Okay, sounds good to me.
I would love for you to share your experience of meditation, and I'll share my experience on the bottom of the pool.
Brilliant.
If we can put it in some kind of words, and
I'll try to without
everybody has the same problem. There's 10,000 books wrote about mu, which is Zen for nothing. No, there's 10,000 books explaining what nothing is. So yes, it's kind of difficult. If the Zen masters haven't managed explaining it, then we can only do our best.
We'll give it a go.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.